Good morning. I was just thinking how important it is to understand that we get in the way sometimes. I get in the way of myself and what I'm trying to accomplish sometimes because my expectations are high. My expectations for myself are high. My expectations for others are high. My expectations for what we're capable of are astronomical, are through the roof because I believe. I believe in you because I've learned to believe in myself. Good morning, Jane. It's all about showing up in the moment, right? If you can show up in the moment for somebody else, the world can change. That person's world can change. And I'll give you a little example of that. Last week, a friend of mine, Jane, she reached out to me and asked for some support. She's going through her second battle with cancer. How could I not show up to support someone who needs it? How could I not support myself by choosing to show up, by finding the time, by realizing how powerful it is to see the look on her face when she realizes you're there? It's a powerful thing. Showing up for yourself and that other person matters. We're alone too often, and most of the time we're alone by choice. Because we forget how important that social connection is with other people. And we practice being alone a lot. We practice isolating ourselves because we're afraid of how that other person is going to look at us. It's not how the other person looks at us, actually. It's how we react and respond in that situation to that person from inside ourselves. Do we have enough confidence in ourselves to be understanding of that point of view? Are we understanding enough of our own position in this world to accept and appreciate that someone else hasn't practiced enough being beside you, right? We forget every day that nothing we do in this life can be done without practice. If we don't practice what we preach, if we don't take action on a daily basis to get better inside of ourselves and to be more confident inside of ourselves, nothing is going to change. You know, we bitch, we moan, we whine, we complain about the world. But what are we doing to change our own perception of the reality we're in, of the world we allow ourselves to be in? I have so much passion for life because I know what it's like to die. I have died before, unfortunately. I have put myself in a position to not be here at 11 years old. And so every day that I choose to be here and I choose to show you my struggle and I choose to show you that I'm going to try my best because I don't always show up to my life. I don't always show up and take the positive action I need to get out of my own head. So I can't ask you to show up if I don't choose to show up. And so yesterday, when I showed up, like I had gotten there a little bit early to Doyle Field and Leominster, and I kind of took a walk around, saw the new fitness equipment they have there to use for free. And I was walking around the track, and Jane and her friend had just gotten there, and she was kind of looking around to see if anybody else was showing up. And I didn't want to bring attention to myself or whatever, so I just kind of continued on my walk. I knew I'd catch up to them. And the moment she realized I was there, and the joy, like the real fucking joy, like you could see it, how appreciative she was that she asked for support and it was there for her, right? There's a lot of times in our lives that we ask for support from the wrong people, from the people who aren't willing to show up, or the people who aren't willing to say, hey, I cannot do that for you today, but that doesn't mean I don't have support for you. I don't have the want and the need to be there beside you, even though I can't do that right now. And that's okay. I think that we lack communication. We lack the ability to understand that we busy ourselves to stay out of our own head, right? We busy ourselves for all the wrong reasons. We busy ourselves to hide from who we don't allow ourselves to become. My passion and my purpose is to show you that if you're going to be busy, there are better things to be busy with, right? There are better things, more valuable things in this life to busy yourself with. And yesterday I chose to busy myself with my friend Jane Main. And Jane, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be touched with emotion, to be overwhelmed, to weep, because it cleans out our soul. It cleans out the things that aren't good for us and allows us to see and to elevate what is powerful and important. And when I say free fitness is important, it's not the fitness. The fitness is collateral beauty, right? The fitness is the icing on the cake, right? The walking, the running, the functional movement, the positive energy it creates through the endorphins. It's the community and the connection. You know, it's stop putting yourself in the situations with the people that destroy you, that teach you to destroy yourselves until you're more powerful, till you've created this person inside yourself that can deal with those situations better and you don't allow them to continue to tear you down. You know, if you're not spiritually sound, you're going to be broken down by, unfortunately, the people who you feel should love you, the people that should know how to love you. But why should they know how to love you? If they're not taking action in their life on a daily basis to do things in a more healthy manner, you can't ask more from them. If they're not ready, if they're not prepared, if you're not prepared, we can't ask more of someone else because we're at a place that can handle it, because most likely they're not. And it comes out reactionary, right? We react so often in this life instead of taking a deep breath and thinking about it for a moment and then responding in a more peaceful, helpful way. And that's where we're at right now, right? Somebody passes you and you want to take all the rage that's inside you, all the things you're holding on to, and just vomit it onto somebody else. And how does that help? You need to get rid of it, right? But that person doesn't necessarily need to be the one to take it. You know, when we transfer our pain onto somebody else, we're hurting at least two people. I live here in Central Mass, coming from Boston. And that is a completely unique and hard thing to do. Because in Boston, I can find communities, organizations, runs, meetups without even trying to be part of those things. And here it's hard because if it's not being done, I know I need to do it. But not everybody is prepared to trust me. Not everybody is prepared or willing to join me. As much as I know the value in it, as much as I know the hug that I give, the eye contact, the empowering words are valuable and can be used well by the person I'm sharing that with. And I think that's the hardest struggle here in Central Massachusetts for me. I have a lot of time on my hands because I was given an opportunity to grow beside an amazing woman. She saw something in me She saw something in me when I really couldn't see it in myself yet. I was better. I was willing to allow an amazing, beautiful woman to see me, right? And that's the scary thing, is allowing others to see us, allowing others to see our inner frailty, to allow others to be beside us when we're in pain, when we don't want you to see it, when we don't want you to know that we're experiencing this struggle. But until we can see the struggle in somebody else, perhaps we can't recognize it in ourselves. There is so much to let go of. We need to let go of far more than we hold on to. And we need to allow other people to do that beside us, even when they aren't willing to show up, even when it's over the internet, even when it's from a distance, from afar. And that's a great thing. I think that's the greatest thing about the internet, is that you can touch somebody's spirit anywhere in the world. And you may not ever know it, but that doesn't mean it's not powerful. That doesn't mean it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean you're not the most important person in that person's life in that moment. And that's why you do it. And that's why you show up. That's why you stand there at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning knowing nobody else is going to show up. But if they did, that they weren't going to be alone. I would rather be alone. I would rather have the heartbreak, the heartache, the torment, and the torture of being alone, knowing that if somebody else shows up, they aren't going to be alone. They aren't going to wonder, why isn't Alan here? And if I can't be there, I will communicate that to the highest level. I will never, ever allow you to show up in a situation that I wouldn't show up to myself if it's humanly possible. And so I make sure most of the time, 3/4 of the time, I'm not just going to sit on my couch and not show up. I think that's what I'm trying to say. If I'm running the LA Marathon and I can't show up to the workout because it's on a Sunday and you're going to be there, hopefully we're going to build the kind of community, and I'm still trying to build the kind of community that's going to show up anyways. That's not going to say, well, Alan's not there, so I don't have to show up today. That's not the kind of community we're trying to build here. The kind of community we're trying to build is one that remembers and realizes the value of what it's like to show up and having someone else there beside you. And you don't necessarily need someone leading the group to do so, because you're all the leaders. When you look at somebody and you high five them and you say, good job, you're leading yourself down a better path. You're leading somebody else to feel better about themselves beside you. It's so important. And I'm going to continue to try, because I'm just stubborn enough to keep showing you, even though you're not ready or prepared right now, that when you are ready and prepared, I'm not shaming you if you can't show up. If you can't humanly show up, if you have your niece's baptism or a family function, life, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you can be there and you just choose not to because you're kind of afraid that you're not going to be able to bring the energy and the supportive nature that you need, that's when you need it the most. That's when we all need it the most. There is power in numbers. We're not alone in this, nor should we try to be. We're all in the same boat. We're all looking for an oar to paddle better. We're all looking for someone to paddle beside us. We're all looking, all of us, every single human being is looking for the same little bit of hope and faith and support and understanding and acceptance that we weren't given somewhere along the line that made us feel bad. Because that's what it's all about, right? It's about how do we feel in any given situation. Free fitness changed my life. It allowed me to allow other people to see me at my best and at my worst, and to realize they didn't look at me any differently either way. I was the only one that was looking at myself differently. I didn't get my PR today. I didn't get enough hills in today. Man, I didn't even get 40 sections of Harvard Stadium in today. Man, I didn't even get out and run today. I didn't get out of my own mental space today. I didn't take action in my own life today. But when you allow better, more prepared people to support you, you're going to realize that these hands that you're reaching out with are going to be grabbed by somebody else, and you're going to support each other. You know, whether it's doing hoisties or, you know, walking or, you know, going out for breakfast or whatever. You know, how is any good community built? The cup of sugar, right? The stick of butter, the gallon of milk or whatever that we used to go to each other for. We can do that in different ways now. We can do that in better ways now. We can do it to support ourselves and each other. When you're doing something with somebody else, you forget that you're doing it for yourself as well, and there's no guilt or doubt or my passion and purpose get in the way sometimes of me remembering that not everybody is as strong as me. But that doesn't mean they're not as important as me. The only thing that gets in the way of that is my ego and stubbornness. And it's once I can let go of that. And sometimes, you know, once I let go of all that stuff and once I realize that my beginning is my beginning, my middle is my middle. Where I am right now is my journey. And that other person is wherever they are. And that's okay. It's not going to change until that person feels merit in it. But that doesn't mean you can't support them where they are now. And it's hard in springtime, especially after the winter, right? When you've had all these depressive feelings, not to get manic, right? Not to, wow, the weather's better, and then 2 days of rain. And then, wow, the weather's better, and then it's like, oh, 2 days of rain. And then it's hard to find the balance, right? It's hard to find that place where you can kind of just be, right? When you can just kind of enjoy things and, you know, like, because I want to say so much. Like, I could talk to you for hours and hopefully, you know, you'd find some merit in it, because there is so much value in how we talk and listen to each other. There's so much value in being beside each other in the suck, being understanding of the value of our time, because that's the only thing we have. What do we do with our time? Are we destroying ourselves? Are we destroying the world around us? Are we allowing ourselves to be enabled not to be better for ourselves? Are we enabling others to hurt us, to walk on us, to walk on themselves? You know, sometimes you have to walk away from relationships, walk away from situations, and better yourself, gain the strength. Life's never going to be easier. You're just going to get stronger. You're just going to deal with it, hopefully in a more healthy manner. I don't know if it's better or it's worse. It's harder because you want to be better. You want to show people that they matter to you. You want to show yourself that you matter to yourself. You want to build a better support structure that you can count on when you need it and that can count on you when they need it. That's really what it comes down to. It comes down to what kind of a community do you surround yourself with? Is it a community that understands? Is it a community that respects itself enough to respect you when you're at your worst and to appreciate you when you're at your best, but not to judge you differently either way? A bad day is just a bad day, unless you destroy yourself because you're having one. Unless you destroy others because you're having one. Because you don't want anyone to notice that you're not doing well. And so when someone does, you react and you spew your vitriol onto them because you don't want anyone to know that you're not okay. But I think the greatest thing is it's okay not to feel okay. And you have every right to those feelings. And they come from somewhere and they stem from somewhere. And then there's a root of pain somewhere. But you don't have the right to vomit it on somebody else. It's not their fault you feel the way you feel. You feel the way you feel because there's triggers. There's triggers in your life that make you feel that way that have nothing to do with the person standing in front of you, most likely. And if it is the person standing in front of you that has helped to create these things, if you don't communicate to them, how do they know? You're expecting them to know what they're doing to you? That takes a lot of self-awareness, because then they would just be doing it to hurt you, to spite you. But most of the time, it's because they don't know any better. They weren't taught any better, and they aren't willing to learn any better. But that doesn't mean they willingly are trying to hurt you. No, it's just your collateral damage because they've never learned to get over the pain they're in. Life is not difficult. It's actually pretty simple. Treat the world the way you want to be treated, not the way you feel. And stop looking for it in return from people who aren't healthy enough, haven't healed enough, don't understand your pain enough, don't understand their pain enough to act differently. We expect people to know how we feel without ever communicating how we feel. How does that work? We have words to communicate. We have mannerisms to communicate. We have opportunity to communicate in that moment. But if you don't communicate it in that moment, it builds up, especially the toxic stuff. It continues to build up and it continues to build up and it continues to build up. And at some point, like any balloon, you overblow up the balloon, it's going to burst. And usually it's going to burst on someone that is unaware of your pain, is unaware of your path, and is unaware of how to help you without a little bit of insight from you. And I am as big a culprit of that, and I try every day to be better than that. And I'm far better than I was 5 years ago. I'm far better than I was 10 years ago. I'm far better than I was at 18, when I was thrown out into the world and told I'm supposed to do something now, when I was never taught to do anything other than wait for somebody else to be okay for me to be okay. But every day of my life, I choose to try to be a little bit better than yesterday and to move forward for myself and the world around me. Because I have a lot to offer you, because I'm learning what I have to offer myself. And thankfully, there's always more to learn. We're never going to know it all. Nor should we try. But we should be more understanding of that fact. We should be more understanding of the fact that everybody is like us, having a hard time. Everybody's struggling. Everybody is in a state of shock with the world we live in today. And then we always wonder, why are these things happening? Well, because we haven't healed as an individual. And we haven't allowed other people around us to be who they are. We haven't really accepted people for who they are. We want them to be who we want them to be, so we're okay with it. But that wasn't okay when you were a kid, when people wanted you just to quiet down, be what they were comfortable with, be the person that they are comfortable with. Because that's led us to this point where everybody's in a state of shock. And it's not going to take a day, a week, a month, or a year. It's only going to take the time that you choose to foster care to your pain for you to overcome it. You have to know where it comes from and to know whether it was your fault or not. And most likely it wasn't even your fault. But once you're in that moment, you can actually take responsibility for today and accountability for what you choose to do. Are you going to do things in a more healthy manner? Are you going to do things that are going to better your life and stop blaming people and stop being a victim of the circumstances before, for the version of yourself that you were in that moment? You can't be better unless you choose to learn to be better, to make better decisions so the outcomes are more healthy. Until I was willing to look at my life and say, you're angry, at people who don't or didn't know a better way. Because if they knew a better way, they would have done things differently. And if they wouldn't have done things differently, that's not your fault or your responsibility. Who you are, who you allow yourself to be, the decisions you make and the actions you take, those are your responsibility, and you need to be held accountable for those things. Don't blame other people for decisions you've chosen to make. It's not their fault. And the greatest thing is you can think anything you want in your head. Until you take action on it, it's not real. Just because you think something bad, if you don't act on it, you're not a bad person. If you act on it, if you destroy somebody else and destroy yourself based upon a bad thought, a self-destructive thought turns into a destructive action if you choose to take that action. If you choose to look at that thought and say, that's not me, that's not who I am, that's not who I'm going to allow myself to be in this moment, we're all going to suffer. Because that's a ripple that causes a wave that at some point is going to cause a tsunami. And nobody can get out of the way of a tsunami. We are valuable. And we're necessary. But at some point, you're going to have to look at your reality and say, why is this my reality? Why is this something I allow to happen? Why, if I don't speak up and say, hey, please don't treat me that way. Please don't act that way towards me. Hey, I understand how you're feeling because I can see it on your face. Perhaps you might like to talk about it instead of directing it at me. Perhaps we can find a solution together. Perhaps your passion for life and my passion for life can create some purpose for us all in a positive way if we stop holding on to our pain and we find better ways to balance letting it out. Hobbies, physical fitness, mental fitness, asking for help, looking for support, talking with people who might have more information than you on something you may need help with. And that doesn't make you less than to ask for help. It doesn't make you less than to look for a better solution with people who might be able to help you find it. You know, I'm sober 280 something days now. Hardest thing I've ever done because I'm an adult. I can drink if I want. I'm allowed to use that drug. It's one everybody's comfortable with. And talking about not drinking, whoever thought talking about not drinking would be more important than talking about why you drink? Why don't I drink anymore? Because I'm not willing to numb the pain I'm in any longer. I want to look at it. I want to find out why it exists. Because we're not born in all this pain. Unfortunately, it's cast upon us in the environments we're born into. But we wouldn't be born into these situations if we weren't part of the solution. We wouldn't be born into these situations if we weren't already powerful enough to handle it. We forget because, you know, there's a lot of chaos surrounding us. There's a lot of destructive attitudes and actions that wear off on us, that are taken out on us. Because people aren't better prepared before they have a child to understand that a child, once it's born, doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the world. And what you do to help that child battle the world better and to see themselves better in it. They just become part of the struggle, become part of the chaos. We don't need more money. We don't need more expensive cars. We don't need bigger houses. We need more peaceful time with each other. Because that's all we got is time. The only way to get out of the dysfunction you're in as a child is time. But by the time we get to that point, how far gone are we? I used to weigh 265. I was at the end of my rope in 2010. But every day I've made a little bit better of a choice and decision to not allow that to be how I move forward. And I've been laughed at and I've been ridiculed by my own family from top to bottom once I had a voice in my head and I was willing to use it because it was different than they've heard. It was different than they could value. And now I'm ghosted by most of them. And it's extremely difficult for me because I love every single one of them, every inch of my being. But I will not be made to feel less than for caring about them. And I will not be made to feel less than because I've learned to care about myself in spite of them, for them, wanting to be an example worthy. A worthy example for everyone that I meet, everyone that matters to me. Because I'm not going to be here forever. And I don't want to be here forever. I want to be here until I'm done. Until I've let go of all of the pain. All of it. Let go of all the things I thought were valuable and allow all the moments that are valuable to my life to matter most. Because it's not about how long you're here. It's about what you do with the time you are given. It doesn't matter if it's a day, a month, a week, a year, 50 years, 70 years, 100 years. If you're just wasting time and wasting space, what good is being here? But we all got to look in the mirror at some point and say, what are we doing? Is this all I have to offer the world around me? Is this all I have to offer myself? When I make hats, this hat is important to me. This logo is important to me. Running is important to me. It's important to my wife. And we value it because it's something we have built together. Elizabeth Carr is the most amazing, beautiful, talented, passionate, beautiful woman I've ever met. And if you don't know her, and if you don't know her story, man, are you missing out. She's been under pressure since before she was born. And if you don't know that she's the first IVF baby born in the United States, and if she wasn't completely healthy, what that would have done to IVF in the United States, and you haven't thanked her if you have an IVF baby, or an IVF brother or sister, grandchild, niece, nephew, thanked her for learning to deal with the pressure better, not for being the first IVF baby in the United States. That wasn't her choice. But what she does on a daily basis with her passion for life, with her passion and purpose for the people she chooses to support. It's not about how we get here. It's about what we do while we're here. Are we creating destruction? Or are we creating a softer space for everyone to land? And I'll leave you with that. Is what you're doing destructive to yourself and the world around you? Or are you doing more things to create a softer space for yourself and others around you to land? And it's not, like I said, it's not a day, a week, a month, or a year. You got to foster care to it. And you're going to fall down. Keep getting up. Keep failing forward. Keep giving yourself a better chance. Don't allow your ego to guide you on these self-destructive roads any longer. And if you need help and you need support, I'll help you. If you need a wingman, if you need a run buddy, if you need an accountability buddy, if you need someone to talk to, someone to listen, I'll make the time because you're valuable. Happy Wednesday, everybody.